got several new people here tonight, I know, visiting for the first time. And two things. We are broadcasting on Periscope live. Hello. Nancy, if you're there, te amo, te extraño. My husband is in Colombia, hopefully watching. South America, not South Carolina. And we are trying to stream on YouTube Live for the first time. Don't know if this will work. Hello, YouTube Live. And my name is Casey Durango. And my personal quick story is that I've lost 95.5 pounds as of last Saturday. On a ketogenic diet after having seen Dr. Eric Wesmtan's infamous white coat video, and that changed my life. I saw it on January 8th, 2014. My life has never been the same since then. That is just my story. Beyond the weight loss, which is awesome, all my blood markers are perfection. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Oh, I do want, excuse me, please. I've got feedback. There we go. I'm going to ask if who here is visiting for the very first time, what brought you here, and what's your story. If you don't want to be seen on camera, that's coolio. If you don't want to talk in front of other people, that's cool as well. But if you would like to share, if this is a safe place to do so. This and the rest of the entire world that's watching. So would anyone like to say, who here is coming for the first time? Lots of newbies. That is fantastic. And would anyone like to share what brought you here and what your story's all about? Yes, Maria. All right. You can come on up if you want, or you can stay where you are. This is an open forum.
Thank you so much. Well, I discovered Dr. Wesmtan by accident. My son is type 1 diabetes. He was diagnosed 5 years ago, and as a good mom that I wanted to be, I was searching how to help my son, and I discovered that low carb can help. We've been doing low carb. His numbers are great. I get in contact with different people, and we practice low carb. And I wrote him by Facebook, and he told me about this, and I'm in love. I appreciate it to be here, and for me, it's a big blessing to be here because it's hard to find a group that you can. I never been in another group. This is the first time that I want to join a group. So I would love to be here all the time and learn more and practice this for me and my family. My husband is type 2 diabetes, and he's doing good too. And I don't want to be diabetic. I want to lose weight. I want to look good, and it's working for everybody. So far, I started like a month ago. I'm down 12 to 13 pounds.
And where are you from originally?
I'm from Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico now. A lot of things that a lot of folks say, oh, well, it sounds good, but I couldn't do that, or my family wouldn't stand up, because we're from Puerto Rico, and everything is tostones and rice and beans. Yeah. Or we couldn't do that. We're from Italy. Everything is pasta and bread. Or we couldn't do that. We're from France. We're from Asia, or we're from South Carolina or North Carolina, where everything's a biscuit.
Right.
Other than the Maasai and the Inuit, every culture can say, well, we couldn't possibly do that because our culture is based on carbs of some sort. Right. So here you are, Puerto Rican, and you're making it work. So
I cut out all the rice and the beans and pasta and maduros and everything. Just
the maduros are fantastic, man. I tell you what.
No more fruits. I'm trying to do the best, and I want to stick with it because it's working really good.
And your family's okay?
Yes, everybody's working as a big team.
They're working as a big team. That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. And where did you travel from today?
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest. Very good.
Where's your son?
I'm sorry?
Where's your son?
Well, he's a jiu-jitsu champion, so he got some class. Next time he will.
Really good. Would anyone else who is here for the first time like to share how they got here and what their story is?
I will.
Okay. Come on down. Or you can stand where you are.
My name is Kay Lilly, and I've been type 2 diabetic since 1999. Actually, before that, just wasn't diagnosed until then. I started eating ketogenically February 15th of last year, and I've lost only 10 pounds. And I don't know what's wrong. So I've been trying to get an appointment. But I keep being told I have to have a referral, even though my insurance company says different.
You don't need a referral.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So
I'll give you the
leave
phone
that.
number,
I have already called.
620-4061. Well,
So anyway, I am here to figure out why I'm not losing weight. I know I can't exercise very much because I have asthma and I get short of breath on exertion. So that's my story.
would you like to be a detective?
I would love to be a detective. It's my favorite thing.
All right.
Okay, if I was going to ask you, first of all, say, do you feel like you're keeping your carbs sufficiently low?
Yes.
Are you counting net carbs or total carbs?
I don't do the math, but I don't eat grains. I don't eat potatoes. I don't eat beans. And I do not eat sugar.
If you insist, Dr.
I
Wesmtan.
learned this on a radio show in another country where someone called in and said, this diet's not working, this diet's not working. And the quickest way you can get to the chase is to say, what are you eating? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, give me an idea, eating and drinking. And then if someone says, well, I'm not having, no, I don't care what you're not having. I know what you are having. This is, bang, bang. So what are you having?
I have vegetables, no potatoes. I have today.
For breakfast? Yeah.
Today I had 3 slices of thin ham with cheese and 2 eggs.
Great.
And,
And to drink for breakfast?
Coffee.
Anything in the coffee?
Coconut milk cream. It's unsweetened. And stevia.
Okay. And then keep going.
And then a handful of pecans. That's it.
Oh.
And then dinner tonight.
No, time out. No judgment yet. Peanut gallery.
No peanut
gallery. That's okay. I'm taking notes. Keep going.
That's all I've had to eat till I had dinner tonight. It's delicious.
Okay, so, but let's say yesterday. What did you have?
What did I have? I had a slice of the bread I make with almond flour and
Could you hear that? Can you speak up?
and flaxseed flour and almond milk.
So it was the bread I had with almond flour and flaxseed.
And eggs. Lots of eggs.
And are you trying to follow the page 4 protocol?
I just got the page.
Oh, okay. So when you look over, you'll
But
be
I've
able
read
to.
all kinds of books on this. So
Okay.
I'm trying to
That's okay. So
That
keep
is
going.
good.
Yesterday, what did you have? This is called getting the primary data and
And-
extracting.
For dinner, I had the 1 slice of bread and some bacon.
What kind of bread?
The almond flour.
Almond flour and bread you made
that I
yourself.
make. Slice it. And I had a couple of little cracker squares of cheese and bacon. Yeah, that. And then for dinner, I only eat 2 meals a day. And for dinner, I had chicken parmesan without the breading. Salad.
What does the salad mean?
A salad, it was a Caesar salad with just your Caesar dressing, no croutons.
And any snacks?
Not yesterday.
Any desserts?
No.
And what did you drink later in the day?
I drank a glass of wine with my meal.
Oh!
A glass of wine, a dry red wine, and coffee.
Actually, Casey taught me this one. Is it a restaurant pour or a home pour?
That's right, 6 ounce.
Okay. So, and do you measure ketones in any way?
No.
Okay. So the quick information.
For me, one issue that I have had.
Oh no, we're still diagnosing.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Almond flour.
Yeah.
Almond flour is high in fiber. It's got a lot of fiber. but that counts if you're counting total carbohydrates.
And then
What was in the tomato sauce?
Tomato sauce.
And was there pasta with the
Parmesan.
chicken parm? Or just-
Do you know what was in that tomato sauce?
No, it was at a restaurant.
Restaurants are tricky. Restaurants are tough.
And then the pecan gallery. So if you go to page 4, the things that will be erased from there will be no almond flour. You can't make your own bread at this stage. If you really want to be keto, unless you're young and you're running around, you do jujitsu like your son. So if you came to me and you don't really need an appointment, I would say stay to page 4. So no almond flour, no nuts. There are no nuts on page 4. What else? No wine. Or you minimize it, or introduce the ketone checking. Urine is fine, and that's the way you know if you're having too much wine or almond flour. So that's what I would say first is check the ketones, or cut out all those other things. Either way, if you've never done ketones, don't want to do it, then don't bother. Just you got to cut out the bread, the nuts, and the wine for it, and then I would go from there. Yeah.
And
I think you're really close. I think
Yeah.
you're really close.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one little thing. That's
But you're trying to be supportive at a support group?
Oh, right.
That's fantastic.
Well, a lot in my experience, I discovered that I had to not try to replace foods that got me where I was with faking it. There's the impact of the actual carbohydrate. I'm someone, maybe I'm not as, I don't need to be as strict as I am, but I'm comfortable doing that. But for me, beyond the carbohydrate, there's the idea that bread is one of the problems that got me where I was. Same thing with I don't know, supposedly low-carb ice cream. I would not do that. They try to back out net carbs. Can't do that. But and even something that is allowed, like cauliflower. But if I'm eating mashed cauliflower, which is delicious by any standard, I will stand over the pot and I will eat it it's for me, it's a trigger food. For other people, it might be bread. So you say, well, it's allowed, so I can eat it. Allowed, for one thing, doesn't mean unlimited in anything. But coffee?
What was in the coffee?
What was in the coffee? Speak on up, Amy. So what do you put in your coffee?
Sure, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I use either an almond or a coconut unsweetened milk.
And so are you checking the labels?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I would, if I
See,
was,
I'm worried about my blood sugar as well, so I'm counting carbs
have you tested your blood sugar?
every day.
And is it good?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I would just say keep it simple to start. If it's not on page 4, don't eat it. That's what worked for me, and I think that's what has worked for a lot of people. And I think carb creep can come in, and so you think you're doing pretty well, and you say, "I'll just do this because it is low carb and it's high fiber," and I'm not even sure how a fiber thing is supposed to be subtracted out or why. Why would you not subtract fiber out from anything else? I don't understand. Maybe you can explain the science.
Yeah, so
It's metabolic.
some fiber is not absorbed, some is absorbed to have an impact on the blood sugar. And so the American Diabetes Association says you can subtract out 2/3 of the fiber because it's not absorbed. So that's the general, and net carbs is calculated by taking out the fiber and sugar alcohols from the total carbs. However, most people do absorb the non-absorbable fiber. Got that? So it's called non-absorbable, but it's still absorbed. So it's a misnomer. So if you want to be conservative, to not take the chance that it's going to mess things up, then you count all of the fiber as part of the total. And so you use total carbs, not net carbs.
Is it worth
That's
pointing out the American Diabetes Association also has some questionable recommendations in general?
Right, they
Absolutely.
recommend too many carbs in general. Yeah.
Yes.
There was a question or comment?
If her blood sugar is it spiking? You say it was Sometimes it's good, sometimes.
I take glyburide, and it runs generally between 100 and 120
Well, I was
every
gonna
morning.
say, if the blood sugar is spiking, you might backtrack and see what you ate to cause that spike, and maybe that's a questionable.
Are you comfortable testing for ketones?
Yeah, I don't have a meter or.
The keto sticks are perfectly usable. There's a lot of controversy out there saying they're useless, but they're a really good, effective, inexpensive tool. And that's what, and they're still effective for me if I'm testing. So I would do that, and then you start self-experimenting.
Okay.
And either you can add things back in, or now you know I need to take some things out. So I think that, thank you for sharing that.
Can I
So,
share something?
I'm
Yes, yes,
remiss-
yes.
Glyburide.
I'm remiss that I didn't ask about medication. It's my
Yeah.
fault. So when the blood sugar goes up and you take a medicine to lower the blood sugar, where does the sugar go? Into the cells. And what can you make out of the cells? In the cells, out of the sugar? Fat. So actually, the medications to treat diabetes thwart weight loss.
Thwart.
I agree.
That's a good
They
word.
work against
I
it.
agree. I've
Work
tried
against the
many
weight
of
loss.
them. Many of them.
So, and even the one you're on.
It's the
So-
only one I don't react to.
So you can't use metformin.
No.
And so depending on what your doctor's comfort level is, I'm more comfortable with a blood sugar that's a little higher than most endos because people are losing weight when they see me. And I don't want to push the blood sugar down too low because when the sugar goes in the cells make fat from it.
For a while there, I didn't take it at all.
And what happened to the blood sugar?
It went up.
But how high?
140, 160.
Yeah, so I would say that's a range that would be fine while you're losing weight.
Oh,
So the end result of to fix the diabetes is to lose the weight.
see, my endocrinologist knows nothing about this.
That's common.
Even though I gave her.
Well, you can teach your endo
Mhm.
or not. What some
Or
people say is,
PIA.
at least we agree to you help me manage the blood sugar, and let's just agree to disagree about the food.
I just go there for my A1C.
Did we give you some ideas to? work
Yeah, I'm
Thank-
gonna.
on? Well, your
Thank you for
prize
sharing.
is no.
Oh,
I want to
Prize.
Yes.
One more.
to encourage you. I would like to tell you I did 4 months before I saw Dr. Wesman of ketogenic. My understanding, and I'm telling you, when I stick to something, I'm neurotic. Go ahead and say it. He says I'm focused, but I'm neurotic about it. 13 pounds, 14 pounds, I think, in 4 months. 1 month of a couple of tweaks, really, in 13 pounds
Wow.
in 1 month.
In
So
1 month.
you're really close. Like he said, I think you're really close. You'll be surprised.
Good. I'm
Okay.
encouraged.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Kay. Is there anyone else that is new? Next meeting. Hey, Terry. Okay, Terry is manning the Periscope. Okay, Terry would like to share. Come on, Terry.
Um,
All right.
I'm 50 years old. I have an 8-year-old. So my whole mission for finding keto is to be around for my children because I had gestational diabetes with both my kids. My son's going to be 18. So back when I was in my 20s trying to lose weight for my wedding, I didn't already know I was insulin resistant at that time. I've never been a binge eater, never been an overeater, always been to a gym, and just would watch the weight go up and up and up. So I found my way through the internet to paleo. That worked for a little while. Then I go to my doctor and they're like, oh, you're pre-diabetic, you're diabetic. I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing that. And went on metformin, could not tolerate metformin at all. I mean, horrible. So, and all the other medicines, I just had horrible side effects. So finally I'm like, okay, just give me insulin. I did insulin when I was pregnant. Just put me on the insulin. Well, instant 10-pound gain. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not good. So I found keto and I started doing that. My doctor agreed to get me off all my diabetes medicine. I am still pushing the statins, so I keep saying no because I know that raises your blood sugar and doesn't really do anything. And
And one of the other side effects is I'm off all my asthma medication. So there's a lot of inflammation. So, you know, surprise, I see my asthma doctor once a year instead of every 3 months. So it's, you got to do it and you got to tweak it for you. I can't do the almond flours. I can't do the net carbs. I can't do any of that stuff. I do very little artificial sweeteners, maybe once in a blue moon, because my poor extended family feels bad for me because I won't eat cake. You just gotta stick with it. And I have a long way to go. I've lost 25 pounds, 5 of it after a 4-month stall. So, and with that, I introduced a little bit of intermittent fasting, and I think it's just the insulin thing. My pancreas just needed a rest, and I, you know, kickstarted it to lose another 5 pounds. But it's a struggle, and I think this is such an awesome thing to do, and Casey and Dr. Wesmtan to do stuff like this, and it helps encourage me because my husband and my kids encourage me, but some of the extended family not so much. So it's great to get everybody together and like-mindedness, I guess you could say. So,
Do you know about page 4?
Yeah.
And if I can, you shared with me before the meeting that your jean size has gone from 1 size to 2 sizes smaller.
Yeah, I've only lost 25 pounds, but I've lost like 6 inches off my waist. So the diabetic gut is minimized. It's still there, but yeah, I went from a 16, 18 to a size, these are size 12, and it's kind of shocking. When you haven't worn that size in 20 years, you're like, wow, really? Can I really put these on?
And sit down?
And sit down. And I sew a lot of my own clothes, and I'm starting to sew smaller sizes, and I'm like, am I sure I can sew this? So yeah, it's a mind thing. It really is. You want to go for the baggy clothes, and then to force yourself not to. So it's really.
And can you describe your current?
Like my bacon shirt.
I don't know if you can see this in the interwebs, but Terry made this herself. One thing is a beautiful sewing job. The fabric is bacon.
It's bacon. Yeah.
It's not actual bacon. It's an image of bacon.
No, I'm not Lady Gaga and wearing actual meat. Just a print.
Thank you for sharing,
Thank you.
Terry. Really appreciate it. And Terry came from Greensboro, so that's awesome. Would anyone else like to? Yeah, Eric, please come on down. Got another Eric?
So I guess my story started in grade school, really. I was overweight all through grade school and high school. I'm wearing size 33 pants. I haven't worn size 33 pants since 7th grade, probably. So yeah, I was stuck at size 36. And what got me started on it, I wasn't overweight, so I was like, I'm doing okay. Every year the doctor say, oh, your blood sugar's a little high, it could come down. Well, that's okay. Just lose 10 pounds. I go another year, do nothing different. Go another year, do nothing different. Finally, the A1C was 5.7.
You speak a little louder.
Okay, finally my A1C was 5.7, and then the doctor got more interested. Unfortunately, she said, exercise more and eat low fat. And I run marathons, so I can exercise more. And I didn't, so that's what got me started. So I got online, and I've watched countless lectures, many of yours. And
Professor Noakes
in
South Africa.
Yeah. And who else? Ted Namian. I'm on thedietdoctor.com.
Right.
You can get a lot on there with Steve Finney. That's fabulous stuff he's got. So anyway, I learned it's low carb, high fat, obviously. And in about a year, it's been a year gradual weight loss. And it won't come back. What I think is interesting, and if it hadn't happened out here, you lose your sweet tooth. You absolutely, you don't even want it. That's weird.
Excuse me. For those of you who can't see, everyone in the room is nodding their head, which is a wonderful thing.
And you may or may not know you lose your hunger. You spend your whole life hungry. And when you cut the carbs down, you're just like, oh, it's time to eat. Well, I guess I better eat. And so, yeah, so it went down to like, okay.
Tell me about your running. Like, there's a glucose burner and then there's a fat burner.
Oh,
How's
well,
it
I'm just learning the fat burning.
Okay.
And I started checking my blood sugar. So I ran like 13 miles and I was eating these goos because I knew I probably shouldn't be, but I was just doing a test. I ate the goos and then I come home and 120. I just ran 13 miles. So then I get comfortable. Okay, I don't need the goos. I probably don't even need breakfast.
Yeah.
And so I run. I don't eat anything, go farther, and come home and it's like 85. I didn't have the crash. I didn't, that's because I was probably fat adapted to some degree.
You're fat burning during the exercise.
Exactly.
You don't need to add in.
You've got plenty of
food
it.
or
We've all
sugar.
got plenty of energy.
Even you're very trim.
Yeah, doesn't matter. You got plenty. Dr. Noakes would tell you. You got plenty within you. So yeah, it's easier to run. Now I'm not like, when's my next good?
I think it's really interesting. You've got a couple of different profiles of people who come to this way of eating. Many of us are people who've been heavy for maybe decades, right? And we tried the move more, eat less thing to our detriment and humiliation, because then you start to feel like a failure. But then you have people like you, a 36-inch waist is not that, but you're a runner.
I was never worried about weight. I wasn't worried about the 30. I was worried about the 5.7.
Yeah. So, well, that's interesting.
Because
because if you're going by you're making yourself unhealthy by being heavy, you're causing your unhealth by having extra weight on you. You are programmed to own your poor health, even though what caused the poor health was the bad advice, which was bad nutrition. So you are a tofu, thin on the outside, fat on the inside.
Exactly.
Professor Noakes was the same way. He
Yeah.
literally wrote the book on marathoning, and his blood sugars were going up.
It's happened to a lot of us.
So
I'm not an athlete.
from my perspective, the obesity is just like the 5th side effect of the poor nutrition. And some people only have 4 side effects.
Probably the least worrisome.
Well,
I don't know.
you've never been a fat lady, okay?
Well, I don't mean that. I mean from a health
I know, I
standpoint.
totally. But I this might be way off base, and Dr. Wesman can correct me at his peril. But seriously, it is like, and I can't think of the analogy right now, but Peter Attia made it in a TED Talk. He was talking about blaming the bruise, or blaming the coffee table for the bruise, right? You get a bruise, well, it's not the coffee table's fault. It's the fact that there's an object that's making you have a bruise or something. I'm butchering this. But here you are, you're running. Your A1C is going up and was not probably going to come down on its own.
Of course it wasn't. 5 years, if you change nothing, in 5
Yeah, it was
years,
gonna go up and up and up.
You'll be on metformin.
But no one would say, oh, you would look at me as a fat person with high blood sugar. And you say, well, of course, fatty. You caused that. You and I could have had, eating the same thing maybe or not.
Yeah.
But someone would look at you and say, oh, Eric, poor unlucky guy, unlucky, bad genes. You definitely did not cause it, because look, you're not a fatso.
Well, my guess is there's, people tolerate carbs differently, and I think there's some people that can eat them for 90 years and maybe be just fine. Not many. What percentage would you say?
So Jeff Bullock estimates that 1/3 of Americans genetically can eat carbs and do fine.
Yeah, so that
means 2/3 cannot.
And that's me. Yeah, that's a lot of people. And so I got my A1C down to 5.2, and my mom died from diabetes. So that really,
You don't want to go there.
I'm just like, I'm mad at diabetes. And the way it's being treated. I'm an optometrist, so I see a lot of patients, and now that everything I know, I'm like, I don't want. They've got their own doctor. Where do I fit in? Because one patient told me his nutritionist from the doctor said eat cereal with skim milk every morning.
Yeah,
This is-
ouch. There's a lot of carbs there.
And even he knew not to do that. I mean, he was in his 70s, and he was telling me, that's not I didn't think that was right. I said, yeah, I agree.
We talked about it very quickly at the beginning. He's exercising without eating carbs. It's okay. In fact, doing high level exercise. You go into exercise as a fat burner. You burn fat during the exercise.
You feel fine.
It's fine.
You feel fine.
But it may take, so in the movie Serial Killers 2, Cereal, not Seris. So Serial Killers, Prof. Noakes pulls out his chapter on carb loading and said I was wrong.
Wow.
And then Serial Killers 2, they taught 2 elite athletes to row in a rowboat, rowboat from San Francisco to Hawaii. 45 days of hours of rowing every day, and they ran on fat. But the main point there is they took 6 months to adapt to the high-fat diet. So, and then they found that was they reached the peak level of fat burning at that point. So you don't want to just cut carbs for a week and then go exercise and think you'll do great. Right?
Yeah, they're gone.
You want to give it time for the body to adjust.
I mean, bread's gone. I mean, it's gone. It's not an option. Pasta, all the stuff. I just, I'm not eating it. But that's socially awkward. There's issues.
Really?
there.
Well, yeah, and this is a pet peeve of mine, and I know a lot of people. Just my opinion. People say, "Well, it's impolite to go to someone's home and they've offered you whatever they're offering you, or we're at a restaurant, or it's a holiday,
Or it's your birthday.
or it's your birthday."
Last night at pool night, they brought in cupcakes for my birthday.
And what did you do?
Well, how do you not? I mean, I ate a tiny one.
So you minimize the damage. Just a taste.
I couldn't.
taste.
I couldn't.
Just a skosh.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why this is that people feel that they get a vote in what goes in your mouth as far as food goes. And I hear from a lot of people where they say, no, my sister-in-law had the cheesecake on the fork and was holding it up in front of my face and saying, just this little bit won't hurt, we'll walk it off later. Now, I'm appalled, because what would that person be doing if this recipient was allergic to peanuts?
Or if it was alcohol.
Or it was alcohol. I mean, alcohol's the easy one to say. But let's think about food. I'm allergic to freaking peanuts. I'm not eating a peanut. I'm going to blow up and get, anaphylactic shock or something. But beyond all that, nobody gets a vote on what you put in your mouth. Think of this. Most of us in this room probably have kids. Your kid comes home and said, I'm sorry, there was so much dope, and they were just insisting that I take it. I couldn't say no, it'd be rude. Really? What would be the lecture you would give to your child? What would be the lecture you'd give to your 14-year-old? I couldn't turn down the beer. Everyone was doing it. They were making fun of me. They said that I'm missing out on a bunch. Really? I know the lecture I would be giving to my 14-year-old, who probably had a bunch of beer when he was 14, I don't know. But if I knew about it, I would have something to say about that. Give yourself the lecture. No means no. It's that simple. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I am not interested. I can't eat that right now. It'll have a bad effect on me. I'm intolerant to it.
Like a gluten.
And I'm not saying that that's an easy thing. I'm not saying, oh, just brush it off. I'm just saying, ask yourself the question, what would you tell your kids in the exact same situation? Replace food with ... whatever it is. Anyway, I
won't stay up here much longer, but what worked for me, I got the blood glucose monitor, and so I just did tests. I read a lot of Dr. Tia's. I followed his blog, and so I was, okay, well, I'll eat breakfast. And for decades, probably, I've raisin bran with skim milk. I mean, it sounds healthy. And on the raisin bran package is a picture of a heart. It says heart healthy. The Heart Association says 36 grams a day for a man. I would have 2 bowls, not even counting the blueberries I put in the bottom, 2 bowls skim milk. I was over 50 at breakfast. So I just did, so I cut down to all the cereals, and I was checking afterwards. Finally got down to like fiber 1 with soy milk with no sugar. And so I would check it like an hour later, and blood sugar would be 140, 150. And so then I did eggs, cheese, and bacon, 90.
And that's
so
way
that,
more
if,
fun.
if you do those tests at home, you'll change. I changed a lot. So, and I do have a question though. So I haven't done ketones yet. When you just do that in the morning or after fasting? Or?
So there are many ways to check ketones. You can check urine.
Well, I know the different ways, but
Blood.
what time of day?
Or breath. Well, for most people, the ketone levels are higher in the evening. Lower in the morning, higher in the evening. So there's kind of it's called diurnal pattern. And no one really knows what the best level is.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So do you check blood?
That's what I'm going to do. I've got it. I haven't done it yet. So you say in the evening.
Well, yeah, and I'm not even sure you have to do it.
Oh, well, correct. I'm like
You want to measure?
Yeah, I'm OCD.
Just do it at the same time. Pick a time and just do it at the same time.
Or check for yourself to see if the morning or evening is the higher one.
But I can just say everybody here is lucky that Dr. Wesmtan will come and spend his time like this.
No joke.
Oh, they know.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, yes, sir.
I knew, I've been here before.
You want to come up or you want to stay where you are?
No, I just want to ask a question. What are the implications of this diet for other ailments, illnesses people have? You know, do you have any knowledge or experience?
Do you have an example, like what, high blood pressure?
Oh, let's say some neurophysical ailment. Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, so the research on low-carb or keto diets is really just starting. There was a taboo on studying this area for 25 years. From 1980 to 2002, when our study first came out, 2002, that was the lag time. 1980 to 2002, no one studied this at all.
Why not?
A lot of reasons it wasn't. Everyone thought it would kill you. These doctors who were using it, seeing results, were
Funding
quacks.
for research.
You know,
There's no funding for research.
so you have to have a certain group of people saying it's okay to study it in order to get a panel of researchers to approve a study. That's called the peer review. And if there's one person on the panel to say you can't study it because it's unethical, then it gets sent away. So the diseases that are being studied right now, it's pretty exciting, but it's still preliminary, are the neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And if you have any qualms about thinking about whether the diet can affect the brain, there's a diet called the ketogenic diet that's been used for childhood epilepsy for 100 years. And in some children, it turns the epilepsy off overnight because those children can't use glucose in the brain. So when you feed them glucose or sugar, starches, it turns off the ketones and they have epilepsy. So overnight, when you don't feed the carbs, these kids just, it's amazing. So that what you eat, the ketones and the glucose can affect the brain. The neurodegenerative diseases are just now being studied at it's at an anecdotal level in humans and at a animal study level in rodents. Okay, and what's exciting is people are already funded to do research in Alzheimer's and these other and cancer are now setting their sights on using the low-carb keto diet as a tool. This is new, just over the last couple of years. There's a conference called the Metabolic Therapeutics Conference held in Tampa every January, early February. And those videos are put online within a few months of the meeting. So I would look at, it's also called the Conference on Nutritional Ketosis. And you'll be able to see the scientists presenting their research even before it's in publications. If someone comes to me wanting to do keto to treat dementia, MS, some neurodegenerative disease, I'm honest. I say we really don't have human clinical trial data to say that it's going to work. Same as someone comes to me for the treatment of cancer, I say, we don't have human level clinical trial data to say that it's going to work, but I'll teach you how to do it. And so I have people who have metastatic cancer, they read about it, keto, they read Keto Clarity, which is a book I helped to write, and I can teach you how to do it, but I don't guarantee or even have high confidence that it's going to work. Those studies really haven't been done. Now, you mentioned MS. Terry Walls is a doctor in Iowa who had her own personal story about fixing her own multiple sclerosis, MS. Dramatic story, and she has a protocol to use that's also very low carb, includes some other things. We're waiting for the second person to be helped by it. Okay, so but there's a big difference between what we know about low carb for diabetes, for hypertension, for obesity. These are studied to the level of FDA approval for a drug. Okay, so turn the page. Those are done. But the new science is looking at these other problems, and it's still very preliminary to know. The most exciting thing that I saw at the conference in Tampa was the combination of a ketogenic diet with hyperbaric oxygen treatment for the treatment of cancer in dogs. So there's actually it's a mammal, a large mammal. They have some remarkable cures in cancers that generally can't be cured in these animals. And that's called the Keto Pet Sanctuary. So you can actually go to that website of the Tampa conference and see the video from there. That's pretty exciting. There's a whole book on cancer as a metabolic disease. Tom Seyfried wrote that book. He's a biologist who does animal research. We really don't have that at the human level yet. And like we find with drugs, they can have great effect in animals, small animals, but then not have effects in humans. So I have to straddle both worlds to just be honest about what we know, what we don't know. I'm not ready to write a book that says, doing a keto or low carb diet will cure cancer, because we don't have that level of information. But it will cure diabetes, hypertension, obesity, all these other things. Just as a final note on that, Dr. Atkins wrote a book called The Dr. Atkins Health Revolution. It's an obscure little book. You can probably get it for $1 on Amazon, used books. And it had all of the conditions that he treated in their clinical practice in New York City. And MS was one of them. They treated other neurodegenerative problems. And they also used other supplements and all that kind of thing that I don't know much about. But if you want to get a snapshot of what they were doing, he wrote a book about it that most people have ignored. I use that kind of as a roadmap. Dr. Atkins' Health Revolution. So his diet book that sold millions of copies was Dr. Atkins' Diet Revolution. This one is the Health Revolution. Anyway,
Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Yeah.
Two things. You spoke about childhood epilepsy, which is pretty well documented from Johns Hopkins and the treatment of childhood epileptics. One of the people, and you can see there's some comments there, a woman who comments a lot, and this is just anecdotal again. She is an adult epileptic, and she just could not deal with the seizures anymore. There were just too many. So she took her health in hand, and with her doctor's blessing, she started the ketogenic diet. And she updates me regularly. Her name is Joanne. Hi, Joanne, if you're here. And her seizures are very much reduced, and her medication is reduced. So again, it's just like brick by brick, step by step. But I also want to point out, I know that you were part of a march, a scientist's march, essentially.
Oh, right.
And what was the mantra? What do we want? I can't.
Evidence-based medicine.
Evidence-based medicine. When do we want it?
After peer review.
There we go. So it's like you want science, and I think this is another thing, a trap that people can fall into. And let's just face it, there's some charlatans that are willing to sell you something, a product, a potion, a powder, a pill, and will get your ketones up. Let's be careful about this. Follow the science, not the hype.
But I have to say it's exciting. So now it's exciting to see solid research group in Tampa, that's the University of South Florida, have funding now actually through the company that's making products. It's just one way to get money. And they're presenting research. For example, this year, Dr. Wilson, Jacob Wilson, presented data on giving someone who's a carb eater, so they're not even doing a low-carb diet, they're giving ketones to drink, and the Parkinsonian tremor reduced, just for a little while, but to show an effect like that with something you just, a ketone that you drink.
But this is
Very
a
interesting.
therapeutic use
It's
of an
therapeutic
exogenous ketone, which is different than trying to lose body fat. This is
Oh, right, right.
therapeutic.
Yeah, so if you're drinking oils and butters and ketone products, these are calories. I'm not a big fan, don't recommend them if you're trying to lose weight, because we want your body to burn its own fat when you're losing weight, not the fat.
But if
or
ketones can
that
help
you're drinking.
Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or inflammatory situations, that's therapeutic,
Right.
as opposed to nutritional. So there's a difference.
So I hold open that so there are a lot of sayings about using ketones to jumpstart weight loss, things like that. I want the studies to be done, and then I'll talk about it.
What do you want?
But right now the studies aren't done.
What do you want?
Evidence-based
Study.
science.
Oh, evidence-based medicine.
And when do you want it?
After peer review.
There you go.
Well, or even at a meeting level. Or even if the company would come, or some promoter of the product with the information that we could read and be convinced, that would be sufficient. Okay, so we've been criticized a little bit for not promoting willy-nilly these new ketone products because they don't help everyone. In fact, they can hurt in terms of weight loss.
You have to stop talking now because there are other people who want to speak. Okay, are there any other new people here who want to share their story of why they're here? Okay, and I know that I've never met Jean before, but we kind of know each other from online. And Jean has a great story to share. And how long did you drive today?
6 hours.
6 hours. Jean and Mark drove 6 hours to be here today.
From this.
I'm this way, so your fans can see you, Jean.
And I do have fans on the
I know you do. Okay, so share your story.
All right, where to start? I've always been fat since not always. I was a skinny little kid, but I got fat when I hit puberty. And I think that's a very common thing. And by the time I graduated high school, I was like the biggest kid in the class.
Can you hear?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Speak up just a little.
I'm a little bit nervous. I'm sorry. I had tried to diet before. I did the Atkins diet actually in the early 70s, and I started losing weight, and it was great. But I'm the oldest of 11 kids. My parents couldn't afford to buy the food for me. I had to buy my own. I lost my job. I lost my source. So I gained it back. Plus, then in 1989, I went on a diet through a medical, not a Jenny Craig, but that kind of a diet where I had to go in every other day to weigh, and they gave me the diet. And I actually lost. I got down to 155 pounds from 223. And I did it from October to April. And I really felt good, but I stopped losing. For some reason, it just didn't work anymore. And I know now that it was because I actually had lowered my metabolic rate. So I tried other diets. I'm 62 years old. I got to the point I was bedridden. And I had just given up on life. Sorry.
No, you're sorry. This is a victory. Don't you be sorry.
I thought, this is it. I'm in bed for the rest of my life. I've got no life left. So my whole life was YouTube. I spent so much time on YouTube, and then I found Dr. Finney, and that was the turnaround point, because everything he said was exactly the opposite from everything I've been doing. And I said,
I've been going this way my whole life, and it's not working. So I said, let's go that way.
For those of you who can't see, tissues are being passed around the room.
I'm sorry. And I told Mark, I said, everything we have tried to this point has failed. We need to go the other way. And I found a diet that goes the other way. So I listened to Dr. Finney. I listened to Dr. Golick. I listened to Dr. Westman. I listened to Dr. Atia. I listened to Jimmy Moore. And I listened to Going Keto with Casey.
And you listen to your body.
And through that, I found Casey's group that she started on Facebook, which was Keto After 40 and Beyond. And I've been there ever since. And it's such a great support group. And it's through that I found this meeting where we are today. But if I had tried to come 3 months ago, I'd have been wheeled in here in a wheelchair because that's the only way I could get around.
So you started in bed.
I started in bed.
Wheelchair.
And a wheelchair.
Walker. Did you use a walker at all?
I have 2 canes with me tonight because I didn't know how far I had to walk to come in here.
Wheelchair's in the truck.
And my wheelchair is still in the truck because I still have to use the wheelchair for long distances. Like if we were to go to a mall, there's no way I could walk a mall right now. But those are the only circumstances under which I use my wheelchair. That and if there's no electric cart at Walmart.
But you've gone from hopelessness.
You couldn't do this in October.
You couldn't stand?
I couldn't stand this long.
In October?
There's no way I could stand this long in October.
And all you changed was food?
All I changed was my diet. I started the ketogenic diet, and I have so far lost 55 pounds as of this morning. I started at 46 and celebrated like crazy when I got under that 200 mark because I never would believe at this age I could do that.
And I think that's really key at this age because so many people,
yeah,
particularly women, and it's just that it's the truth, particularly women have been told if you have not gotten your act together by menopause, easier that you will be able to levitate across this room, not touching the floor, than to lose weight. And it's so defeating. And it's so untrue. So thank you for sharing that story. I mean, that's really dramatic and awesome. From bed to standing here talking to the world.
And from walking, I walked in here with my canes. I walked in here with my canes, but I didn't need them.
I've seen you walking. Yeah, I've seen you walking.
I went around to the ladies from without.
Very good. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you. Mark, do you have anything you want to share?
Is he in? Yeah, he's in here.
I passed 200 pounds going up when I was 16 or 17 years old. I'm now 47. So for 30 years, I have never seen the other side of 200 again. In fact, I haven't seen the other side of 300 in decades. So carrying all that weight, of course, I've destroyed my knees, destroyed my ankles. My blood sugar just made it into the bad range right before we started this diet. Got that under control, no problem. But like she said, we have researched dozens of diets, and we have tried dozens of diets. We went vegetarian, we went vegan, we did everything under the sun, and had success in some diets. But as soon as you couldn't afford to buy this stuff, or you couldn't, do this, or situations always change. You always default back to the cheap, easy foods, starches, potatoes, it's the works. So in the true sense of the word diet, being your total intake of food, this is the diet I'm going to be on for the rest of my life so that I can have a life.
Have you lost?
I have lost. I don't want to say it because I'm going to make everybody hate me. First 2 months since October, from October to December, I lost about 50 pounds.
That's great. Wow.
And then stalled. I'm still tweaking. I'm still finding out. I found out I'm very carb intolerant. So I discovered the joy of cottage cheese again after a while, and it completely decimated my ketones. And I have
Not on page 4.
So I haven't been in ketosis since December. I'm not discouraged at all because I did have the 50 pounds. I'm still at 50 pounds lost. I'm still losing a little bit of weight just through calorie restriction because I'm only eating once a day. In fact, we were supposed to go to dinner before we got here, missed it. So I've been fasting for 24 hours at least. I don't know about her.
That was one of the other things I forgot to tell everybody is I only eat one meal a day, every other day.
Oh, wow.
And I just fell into that naturally. Just because I listened to Dr. Wesman's advice and Casey's advice, I only eat when I'm hungry. And I wouldn't get hungry some days. And so I just started eating when I was hungry, and that turned out to be every other day. So I do an intermittent fast, but not
by accident.
Not on purpose.
I am not completely unaware of what is causing my non-ketosis, and I've recently made some changes to try to get back into ketosis. Coffee is my big thing.
The creamer in his coffee.
Creamer in the
coffee.
He doesn't like cream.
I do not like the taste of whole cream.
He uses creamer.
I use the powdered stuff, and I found one that's only 1 gram of carbs per serving. The other one I was using was 2, so I've already cut it in half. Then I started cutting the amounts down. Now I've eliminated it completely because I want to make sure that that's what's doing it. So taking it right off the table and back to tea.
And ultimately, that's what it's all about, is listening to your body and self-testing, whether that's actual testing or just listening and being observant about what's happening with you.
I am, and I know this beyond a shadow of a doubt, I am a carb addict.
Hi, Mark.
Anyone else here?
Thank you.
Everybody.
The other people didn't raise their hands, just don't know.
Well, once you step back and look at this, when you remove yourself from that food, and then you look back at it, you're like, well, what were my snacks? What are my go-tos? It's always potatoes, potato chips. It's pretzel sticks. It's all starches. Everything I would eat was a starch, and I would sometimes drink 4, maybe more liters of Mountain Dew per day.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
He bought a jug from 7-Eleven.
Oh, well,
the biggest jug that they sold.
64
and he
ounces.
would drink that every day at lunchtime.
Wow, that's like hyper sugar. That's like sugar plus 10%.
Stevia is my new best friend. I found a product that's called True Lemon or something. I think that's the company. But they use a stevia powder, and the calories are very low. So I was drinking black cherry limeade, and it was only 5 grams of carbs per packet. And to fill that jug, I think it was 2 packets because it was very strong. So I actually lost down to 300 and I think 335 was my lowest. Oh, by the way, I started at 397. I was 3 pounds away from a bad area.
A scary number.
I'm not kidding.
Measure in kilograms. It sounds much better.
So I this morning, 347.2. First time I've worn these shorts in 2 years. These are my skinny jeans.
Well done. Thank you guys for one thing driving 6 hours. I know you're kind of on your way through somewhere else, but go to Trips after for dinner. I know that's going to be
we were coming here. Trips is the side trip.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good. Well, thank you for sharing. And we're doing really, I love all these new stories. Is there anybody else who's new who would like to share? No newbies? Or no newbies that want to share? Coolio. Does anyone, thank you, Jean.
Yes, ma'am.
Jean's going to help me moderate
Sorry
the
for the
keto after
tears.
40. No, tears are great. Tears, We've all had tears.
It matters.
It matters. Tears matter. Tears help.
I was curious how many, like, all the other diets that you tried, did you feel so much better with the decrease in inflammation on this way of eating? Did you notice that? Is that a big factor
The
compared to the
reason
other
that I
diets?
was able to get out of bed is the lack of inflammation. Because what kept me in bed, I have severe arthritis in both of my knees and spinal stenosis. I'm actually on disability. And if it weren't for the lack of inflammation in my knees, I still couldn't stand up.
So that's a great side effect.
That's one of the best
There's a
side
way
effects.
I think it's the buried lead.
Yeah, and that's.
I think weight loss is cool, but I really think the reduction in inflammation, which apparently inflammation is the root cause of so many autoimmune situations, and maybe even neurological. I don't know. You are even more educated on this topic than I am, but inflammation might be the cause of many neurological situations. Really, the anti-inflammatory properties of this way of eating, I think, really is the buried lead. Everyone wants to focus on the cosmetic, which is important. It's not an irrelevant thing. But when you can stop hurting, there was a woman that was here a couple of months ago, and she was, what did she have? Was some severe. She was in a wheelchair, and just through the food, and I can't remember the condition it was caused. It was some kind of severe pain disorder, essentially. And she lost the wheelchair through food. Fibromyalgia, again, anecdotal. So many people have contacted me, and I wonder if you've heard about it. Fibromyalgia, the great mystery disease. And sadly, again, many people are told, maybe it's not that much of a disease, really. Maybe it's way up here. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's in your inflamed body. And people have come off their fibromyalgia disease. Now, a question. This comes up a lot, and maybe somebody here's heard this as well. I hear this a lot. What if you have no thyroid or hypothyroid, hyperthyroid? What if you have no gallbladder? And what if you have gout? Is there any condition under which this way of eating is contraindicated?
No, so this way of eating is fine under all those conditions. If you have a history of gout, you might get a flare in the early stage, and then you just treat it and get over it. So it's not a reason not to do it. Although a lot of traditional thinkers think, oh, you do the diet, you get gout flare, you shouldn't do the diet. When what it is you do the diet, if you get a gout flare, you treat, you get over it, and then you don't get the gout flare again.
Because you got the gout before anyway, right?
Before anyway.
It's not like the
Well, the gout is from the inflammation.
It's the uric acid and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Aren't
So
you impressed? I
thyroid-
knew about uric acid.
That's fantastic.
What about gallbladder? Hear this all the time. I have no gallbladder. I won't be able to eat the fat.
It's not true. You can eat the fat. So it's interesting. The gallbladder seems to be.
Oh my gosh! For those of you, okay,
For all those who don't have gallbladder, raise your hand.
who does have a gallbladder? Apparently, okay. We're looking around the room like 4 people have no gallbladder. Okay.
And they're eating fat.
And they're eating fat. I saw some of them eat a bunch of fat
Yeah.
with my own eyes.
So, pardon?
We're still producing bio, so we
That's
have
right.
the things we need for that, right?
Yeah. So the gallbladder is kind of a reservoir for the digestive juices that are supposed to mix when you have the meal. And it turns out you make all those digestive juices and they leak down. And even some people develop kind of a swelling where the gallbladder used to be, or down in those tubes going down as a kind of a makeshift reservoir. So actually it's fine to do the keto or low-carb, high-fat diet without a gallbladder. It's fine to do it with low thyroid, high thyroid.
No
Of course,
thyroid.
we check it and make sure your level is replaced. So if someone has no thyroid, usually they're on some medication for it.
Synthroid or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have to eat special fats or different fats if you have no gallbladder?
No.
Just eat the food.
Correct.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
Excelente. Okay, high blood pressure. So you need to keep your sodium intake up a little bit. to make sure that you're not wasting minerals, because on the ketogenic diet, your kidneys will dump water. With water goes sodium. With sodium goes magnesium and potassium. So the solution often is to just up your sodium a little bit. Dr. Stephen Finney says 5 grams a day. What does that look like? It looks like about that much in my spoon, but you have to figure that out yourself. But what if you have high blood pressure and the sodium?
Yeah, well, so of course we're talking to a wide range of people. So if you are taking medication for blood pressure or diabetes and you don't really understand, you're not measuring things, then you ought to do this with a doctor who knows what they're doing. So that's one reason why we created the HEAL clinics, so that people can have access to doctors who understand this. So I can talk about the general phenomenon of what can happen, but if you're doing this on your own at home, you want to make sure you're understanding what you're doing. So the blood pressure will come down as you change the diet and as you lose weight. So actually, at first, I don't ask people to add in salt if they're on blood pressure medicine and the blood pressure is normal, because it's still a salt-sensitive condition. Also, if someone has a history of heart failure, I don't ask people to add in salt initially, because it's a salt-sensitive condition. But so with any of these, with diabetes and high blood pressure, you have to keep monitoring these diseases, and as they get better, the practitioner cuts back on the medications, or people do it on their own who are savvy about it. If the blood sugar is low, you just don't take your medicine for that time, and then you keep adjusting it down lower. So the blood pressure, I wouldn't tell people to add salt in until they're off the medication. And the monitoring of the blood pressure is normal off the medication. And that might take weeks to months. And in fact, some people I treat people who are on 12 medicines, and I peel away the drugs, and the last ones that go seem to be the blood pressure ones. Or if you backtrack, the first ones that doctors prescribe are the blood pressure ones. And then come the diabetes ones, added on to the blood pressure ones. Then the arthritis ones, and so I just kind of take people back down that pathway.
Okay, very good.
Did I answer your question?
You did, and then some. And does anyone have any questions? Because anyone? Don't. Yes, Eric.
What is the mechanism? And could you talk about the mental clarity that occurs with this way? And it shouldn't be called a diet. I think it should be called a way of being. Because you're not going back to the other thing. So it's not. Well, how does that occur?
Yeah. So what gives you the mental clarity? Nobody knows. Well, so you could phenomenologically say it's the ketones. But then how do the ketones do it? But you're always left with, is it the absence of the sugar? So there's always that insulin sensitivity. So we theorize that the brain just does better on ketones. Well, that's okay. That doesn't really explain how it works. But most people do notice a even better vision at times. I've had people who are pilots, for example, and at night, and they have to see very far away. They'll say that their vision is better. That might be a blood sugar thing with the lens of the eye. But the science on the brain and mechanisms is really just starting. So check out those lectures at the Tampa conference. I'm reminded of a brain researcher who said that the brain sucks in the ketones. It's like fuel charge, preferentially fuel charge with ketones. And the glucose just goes in if it's high in the blood, it'll kind of drift in, which it usually is high in the blood, yeah. So does anyone notice that they have mental clarity?
God,
better?
Help me. Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Not everyone, so that's interesting.
I think they will eventually.
Okay, great question.
Anyone else have a question, or anyone wants to share a particular achievement or a victory or a challenge? Yes, ma'am.
I've been 2.5 years since I heard Dr. Wesmtan on the People's Pharmacy in September 2001. And you literally just turned my life around on a dime. I just heard it and went, I'm good. And that was it. But one of the big things that's changed is my inflammation marker. I was at 26, and that was a big concern. And the range is 0 to 3, really, for C-reactive protein. And finally came down, after about a year or so, it came down to 1.99.
From 26?
Wow.
Finally in the range.
Wow.
What's the mechanism there?
What's the mechanism of inflammation reduction on a low-carb diet? So there are a couple, at least two we know of. It's the absence of the carbs that created the inflammation. And then the ketones themselves have specific effects to unlock anti-inflammatory resources in your body. So this is a lecture that Steve Finney and Jeff Volek are just giving now on the rounds that they do. And they have some slides that clearly show that even there's some specific things that ketones do to reduce inflammation. So, but it's also the absence of the carbohydrates that cause inflammation. How do they cause inflammation? No one really knows. It's theorized that it's insulin. And so the carbohydrate, blood sugar goes up, insulin goes up, keep it down.
So why are doctors checking fasting?
So why are doctors checking fasting?
Eric has, you really are about data, aren't you?
Some are. Dr. Gerber in Denver diet doctor, community general. Well, because the guideline medicine kind of erased all of those tests because they weren't cost effective. The doctor didn't get excited till your A1C was up, right? Doctors aren't interested in prevention. We want disease, and then we'll do something, right? Yeah, it's upside down.
It's an expensive blood test. You can't do a finger prick with insulin. It's an immunoassay that's expensive, and there's not good technology yet to be able to do that. I'm sure as soon as that technology is developed, that will be the way to do it, because it's not your blood sugar, it's the insulin level that we want to know. So
Yeah, the blood sugar can be maintained, but the insulin went like this to keep the blood sugar here, and that insulin surge is not good.
Can you talk about the phenomenon of people who are, I'm sorry, I'll interrupt myself. Yes, sir.
Just a question, Doctor. You mentioned MS a couple of times. Do you have any patients that you're working with to die on ALS? Any ALS patients?
With ALS, no. Although a friend of mine, Dr. Joe Hickey works on Hilton Head Island, and he has used the ketogenic diet in combination with chelation therapy for some people with ALS. And it's not a miracle. It's been a few years since I went down to visit Joe, and so Dr. Hickey, if someone has an advanced disease or something that I can't fix just with a diet, and I think the chelation might be helpful, I'll just have them call Dr. Hickey on Hilton Head and then go down to visit. I have one patient who goes down for chelation there for her Parkinson's disease.
And chelation is?
And chelation is a therapy where it's an IV therapy where you take out heavy metals from the body, under the idea that the heavy metals are causing oxidation and damage in the arteries and in the brain. It's an interesting area that has been around a long time. And now even scientific studies have shown that chelation can reduce recurrent heart attacks, much to the dismay of the mainstream folks. But because most mainstream doctors don't get paid for it, and it's kind of an extra skill to develop, most doctors don't do chelation. There are a couple in our area that I'll refer to, or Dr. Hickey on Hilton Head Island combines low carb with chelation there. But ALS is a tough disease. Even cancer. So another lecture I saw in Tampa about low carb diets and is once you have symptoms of Alzheimer's, you're actually 20 years into the process. So you look back and guess what causes it 20 years ago? Insulin resistance.
Dang.
carbs and insulin resistance. So it's called type 3 diabetes. And same with cancer. Once you develop that disease, you're so far down the path that it's so difficult. And ALS is similar like that. I mean, it's really hard to find something that's going to be effective. And the diet's one component of it. For a while, people flocked to Joe's office on the hope that it would be helpful for ALS, and I think some people still do, but I don't think he found it to be the miracle for everyone, unfortunately.
Has he had some success with it?
Yeah, yes. Of course, I've tried to help Joe get funded studies. They're not there. They don't want to do it.
Who is they?
Pardon?
Who is they?
Let's see. I helped them submit a grant to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Once. In the research world, you do it 10 times. You don't give up, right? So anyway, that's interesting. So in real time, there's no data for these diseases, but I will treat using this diet and then refer to some people who I know who do other things too. I think Dr. Hickey is also using the hyperbaric oxygen in some clinical ways that's kind of outside the mainstream, but it's very interesting. Very interesting.
Just mentioning that I've known Dr. Pittman for a number of years and have gone through several rounds of chelation as he's here in the area. And also, that started with him because he had a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I was trying to reduce inflammation 10 years ago. So we have the resource here, potentially
Okay,
could
great.
be paired with
That's good to know.
what you're doing.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
I forgot to mention that one of the things that I experienced was 12 weeks into my ketogenic diet. I had a very large mole on my neck, and it simply fell off.
What?
It fell
Shut
off.
up.
It rings, but it fell off.
Has anyone had a mole fall off?
Skin tags.
Skin tags?
You've had
fall off?
skin tags fall off?
They're gone. All of mine. Yep, all of them.
I really wonder if it was cancerous.
Okay.
So that might have been a skin tag.
No,
So that,
that's
no,
black.
That was interesting. Someone, I'm,
Still there? Still there.
I assume,
skin tags can be a reflection of insulin resistance.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Did I teach you something?
You taught me something, finally. I did not know that.
Yes.
And why? That's crazy. I mean, little bumps coming out of your skin. That's crazy. That can't be good.
So if you have the skin tags, then you might be insulin resistant.
Yeah.
Okay, that's-
Interesting.
Not perfectly
Correlation.
Not perfectly correlated, but it is correlated.
Wow. The things, okay, some wag sent me a message. Oh, fibromyalgia, diabetes, migraines. Is there anything the ketogenic diet doesn't fix? And I said, yes. I said, well, I'm still very short. Hang on.
Bad attitudes.
Yeah, and I have a bad attitude, or his bad attitude.
Right.
I do have a question because this comes up that I hear two things. I'm going to ask one question and a loaded question. A lot of people start this for the same reason I did. I did not want to take insulin. I was on the deck to be a type 2 diabetic. Everyone, both sides of my family, I was on deck. Been super fat for decades. See the white coat video. I Googled how to not take insulin for diabetes. So I said, okay, I just don't want to take, I owned that I was fat. So the weight loss was a happy coincidence. But I did experience this myself, and other people ask, okay, I'm doing this, I'm in ketosis, I'm losing weight, my blood sugar's going up. I'm measuring. Now, here's my layperson's explanation for this, and again, you may know more about it than I do. I'm thinking that for years, my pancreas was shooting out, and I always wanted my pancreas to be up here, but it's not. It's down here somewhere, right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay, it's not up here, though. I always wanted it to be in my throat. Okay, So my pancreas was shooting out insulin to regulate the glucose because I was on the thing. So it was kind of keeping things artificially lower. It was not low, but it was regulated. So I get rid of the carbs. My pancreas is not shooting out insulin because it's not getting that as much. And so now what's happening is I'm finding where my glucose actually might have been if that pancreas response was not being enacted. It took me, I can't remember, I'll have to look back at my ginormous spreadsheet, but it took a few months actually for my glucose to just be nice low. Because it actually went up a little bit and then it would bounce and it was fairly erratic. Is that the correct explanation?
I think it's a good one.
Thank you, Dr. Wesman.
I'm not sure if it's true, but
Oh, dang. It sounded so good.
Another way I explain it is that
Like the actual way?
no, because I don't know either. We're finding a new normal range for people who don't eat carbs. We're defining a new normal range, and so everything that we call normal actually has been developed in carb eaters. It's not normal to have ketones in the blood. Wait, it is when you don't eat carbs.
Right.
So when you're a fat burner, it's normal to have the ketones in the blood. So there's a normal range of nutritional ketosis. The glucose levels, same thing. I think some people, so I'll see some people who have a blood glucose of 110, they're freaking out. So calm down, it's fine. And, all the lab values say, oh, you have prediabetes, all this. When you look at the A1C, the reflection of the blood sugar over a period of months, it's very low because you don't have the blood sugar rises after the meals. You don't have these excursions like that. So the blood sugar itself doesn't really mean the same thing. I mean, it's kind of in the general range, but I don't, if someone's not in the 80s and 90s, which is normal, I don't freak out if it's outside that. So I see some people in the 50s and 60s, blood glucose. They feel fine because they have ketones. As Jeff Volek says, you don't need the glucose because you're running on ketones. So we're developing a new normal range for glucose when people are in nutritional ketosis.
Thank you for that. Erudite.
And the pancreas is not getting as much insulin.
And it's not in your throat.
Yes.
Yes, Eric.
So I know the brain, what else in the body can run on ketone?
Everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
So the question is, what cells in the body can run on ketones? Well, it's really more what cells need glucose. Because you can just imagine ketones substitute for glucose in just about every cell, except the red blood cells, because they don't have a nucleus or mitochondria, red blood cells. The renal part of the kidney has to run on glucose because the oxygen tension is so low, so that you can't use ketones. And then nobody really knows about the eye. It's assumed that nobody's really looked at it, what the eye needs. It actually has some mitochondria. This hasn't been an area of curiosity, but muscles can run on ketones, brain can run on ketones, although muscles prefer fat and ketones. And then glucose is kind of, if you have an urgent need for energy without oxygen, you use the glucose.
Which your body can make.
Which your body can make without ingesting any glucose, yeah. Well, that was the first thing I had to be sure of before I was starting this. Could you not hurt someone by no. Do people have to have carbohydrate was the question.
Because you were trained traditionally, you were a traditional internist,
Yep.
low fat,
Yep.
move more, eat less.
Not eating carbohydrate was not accepted. It was a bad thing to do because everyone needs carbohydrate. Well, actually, it's not true. So the Institute of Medicine actually has it written in their materials, which is probably one of the best unbiased sources of nutritional information, Institute of Medicine. Can I give a brief
I was going to
travel
do
update?
that. Oh, yes, please do.
Well, I just came back from the obesity medicine meeting in Seattle. So I was the president, now I'm the past president of the largest group of obesity medicine specialists in the world. But we're really kind of the only one. So there are 1,900 of us who are specially trained to help people lose weight. Most doctors have no training to help people lose weight. Some doctors say the wrong thing, even. So the great debate of the meeting was the last morning, and just about everyone stayed. All these doctors stayed on Sunday morning in Seattle. Everyone was trying to get back east. And Steve Finney debated Dariush Mozaffarian, who is the dean of the School of Nutrition, John Mayer Nutrition School at Tufts University. Very esteemed researcher in the epidemiology world, Mozaffarian. I got to chat with him just briefly before the talk and then watch them debate about the merits or demerits of saturated fat, the health or unhealthiness of it. And it wasn't a debate.
Wow.
So they both agreed that eating saturated fat was fine.
What? Saturated fat that
Saturated
will kill you?
fat
Will not kill you?
will not kill you.
And they both agree.
And they both agreed.
What a boring
So
debate.
they did come out with some minor differences just for fun, but it was actually fantastic because the Finney, who's thought of as the against everything and all that, is not in the mainstream, are finally coming together after
Is he bummed?
30 years.
Is he bummed that he's in the mainstream?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. But so in the British Medical Journal, just this week,
Sports medicine.
there's sports medicine.
Yeah.
There's an article about how eating saturated fat is fine, and there's 3 prominent cardiologists who are authors on that paper. So anyway, the great debate turned out not to be a debate. Of course, behind the scenes, I was on the planning committee and added. We were really trying to get someone to take the position that saturated fats were bad. In fact, we went through. It was the planning committee of the organization. Tried to get 12 people. They wouldn't come. Couldn't make it. Charge too much money. So to get someone like Dean Ornish, it's $10,000, $20,000 to get him to come, and we pay at a meeting like this $1,500. At a medical meeting, it's not like you're a public speaker level payment. So all the saturated fat is bad gurus, they're not coming out to play. And the mainstream people in the position of Tufts University, Dariush Mozaffarian, says saturated fat is fine to eat. And Dariush is a cardiologist.
Do you see this as a sea change?
This could be a sea change, a tipping point. Of course, we've said this now for how many years? But what also is happening is the political death of the low-fat diet. Political death meaning people are just distancing themselves and not talking about it.
Low-fat what? Who said that? Not me. I never said that.
So if you want to just appease your other doctors and not have them worry, just say you're doing a Mediterranean diet. And they'll all nod and say, well, that's a good thing to do. And they have no idea what it is. But that's okay, because, and if they say, well, what do you mean? Well, it's a low-carb Mediterranean diet.
They'll learn.
Yeah. So
They'll learn.
that
They're
was
smart people as a rule.
That
They'll
was my
learn.
travel. So obesity medicine is fantastic.
2 points. I do want to share that a person who reached out to me said, I don't know what to do. My doctor, her A1C was 6.8, so he wants me to have a gastric sleeve at a 6. Okay, so that's a really not a good thing.
But didn't you know that surgery is the only thing that works for weight loss and diabetes?
Yes.
That's what the surgeons say.
Yeah, that's right. The walking knives. The second thing is,
So you don't need the gastric.
You don't need the gastric sleeve at 6.8. Just eat different food. But I've been asked, and this is a shameless plug actually, for Dr. Wesman's Heel Clinics. Full disclosure, my husband and I are investors, but it was long before he even knew my name or anything. We just believe in putting our money where our health is. In our lives, my life particularly, has been dramatically changed, which thereby changed my lovely mate's life because I became a much happier person. So everything was changed. I've been asked several times, I can't find a doctor who is on board with this. Is there anyone that can do this? Sending out bulletins. I need someone who will not try to put me on a statin or a gastric sleeve or something else. So I refer them to Dr. Wesman at Heel Clinics. This is a clinic set up that is for people who want to treat obesity and diabetes, type 2 diabetes, with no medicines and no gastric sleeves. And you can do it remotely with Dr. Wesman after, if you have a medical, if I understand, if you're on medicines or something, you talk about that.
Okay.
And then there's also coaching and counseling.
Yeah, so the concept is teaching other people the low-carb ketogenic diet, low-carb, high-fat, however you want to call it, LCHF. And so if you don't have a medical problem, you can get teaching from people, we call them partners, who actually have had the experience themselves, and they are trained in helping you do the same kind of program. They Skype with you, or FaceTime, or phone, or would even snail mail if that's the only way to connect with you. But so if you don't have a medical problem, we train you at a distance. And so you go to healclinics.com, fill out the questionnaire. Now, if you have a medical problem, you're on medications, then we really think you need medical supervision one-on-one with a practitioner. And so we have Heal clinics that are sprouting up around in the area. We have one in Northern Virginia that's opening up soon. We have one in Durham that's open at the moment. So Heal clinics is a way to get this kind of teaching. So if something's not working for you, you're not sure, you can't come to the support group here, you might sign on to the Heal clinics program and get the specific training. You get an exclusive video that I did for Heal clinics that works through the handbook. In fact, it's a version on steroids of the page 4 book that's been out there called the Heal Care Manual. And so thank you for talking about healclinics.com. And there's also the opportunity to invest in the company. So if you've had results, you want to pay it forward in a way. Most people will give from $10,000 to $25,000. So it's a grassroots kind of company. And we've been able to raise $800,000 over the last 3 years, which in the corporate world, they say that's a good start. I had no idea how much it takes to get things going, but it started.
In the bottom line, Heal clinics or any other initiative, you own your health care. People say, well, my doctor's putting me on XYZ. My doctor is putting me on a statin. My doctor's putting me on whatever medications there might be. Remember that just because your doctor prescribes it doesn't mean you're obligated to take it. Now, to take that with a grain of salt. You have to take care of your health care. But make sure you do some investigation. And if what you have can be cured by food, think about that. A lot of what we've got going on can be cured by food. And Heal Clinics is about food. It's not about medications. What I've done is about food. It's not about medications. What many people in this Jean, what she's done is about food. She got out of her bed and moved through a wheelchair, and it's about food. So keep that in mind. That's really the bottom line of this. Some things, you have a gash in your arm, you need a doctor, you need stitches, okay? But a lot of stuff is just doing the opposite of what we've been told to do. And for those of us who like to question authority anyway, that's a really great place to be. So thank you guys for showing up. This was a one last thing. Yes.
One of the problems for teaching people was the one-on-one partnering. So I've been in this kind of clinic setting for 10 years. So my dream was to create a one-on-one partnering, and that's the Heal clinics. The other thing that was really necessary was convenience products that were really, truly low in total carbs. They didn't exist. And so that's Adapt Your Life. Those products, adaptyourlife.com. And the big announcement is that there's a new bar coming out. And so keep your eyes out. Also, you can buy the old bars, the first generation bars, before the summertime, because they're not going to ship them during the summer. Lesson learned, if you don't have additives, you make them totally preservative-free, they melt. Of course, you can put them in the fridge and they reformulate and they taste great, but a lot of people don't like the way they look. Anyway, check out adaptyourlife.com as well. It fills the niche of, does anyone have a bar in their pocket, for example?
I've got 4 boxes of
But they're
the fat shops.
truly low carb.
I just got an order.
They're total carbs. There's
Oh, I
not a
just
bunch
happen
of
to have one.
What's that in your pocket? Is that an
In
adapter?
general, you want to eat real foods, not stock up on these other things in a pinch.
In a pinch. This was really a great meeting. I'm
Yeah.
so glad there were so many new people. And thank you for the stories. They're really inspiring. And I hope we have more and more. And we're in May. June is the first Tuesday of every month, except for July this year. The 4th of July is on a Tuesday. So
Let's
in
not meet
July.
then.
So what's we now?
Let's not meet then.
Let's not meet then. Although there are always fireworks at the low carb support. So in July.
The fire trucks.
The fire trucks. Guess what happened last month? They had the fire trucks because we were burning so much fat. They had to call the fire department. He loves that joke because he's a total dork. He's such a dork. Okay, so anyway, July will be a week after the July 4th. Other than that, thank you guys so much. Thank you on the YouTubes. And I hope this worked.
Periscope.
And Periscope as well. And Nanchi, I miss you. Come back. Make sure you come back from Colombia. I'm counting on it.
See you on the low carb cruise.
Oh, see you on the low carb cruise later this month. Very well. Amy is going on to the low carb cruise. We're going on the low carb cruise. You're going on the low carb cruise. I'm buying the drink package. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Hasta la vista.